Good evening, everybody. My name is Lou Jensen, and this is the weekly gathering of the INE Network. We've been doing webinars. So I started the Inspiration and Encouragement Network in 1983, and we've been helping each other discover, develop, master, and share our talents now for a long time. If you're new, welcome. Come sit down and visit a little bit. We try and tackle the Artistic Business Academy. Most of us have a thread of interest or an artistic inclination, creative talent, people orientation that way, and yet the business side is just such a handful. It just tends to push most of us to the nth degree. And I was a practicing dentist for years and bumped into a hobby, and that hobby started to take off, and dentistry was a challenge over here, and my art, playing over here with my art, was just nothing but fun. So all I did was lean in the direction of that thread of interest and then make myself a bit of a challenge that I was going to, if I could ever figure out a way to outproduce my dental income, then I could retire from dentistry and come play the rest of my life. And it took me 6 years to do it, but geez, I have a good time. And so that started it for me. And then what was my story quickly became our story because others began to learn how to do and what to do. And it just got better. And so one thing has led to the next, and now all we need is your story. Most people are a little intimidated or anxious that they don't have enough talent and ability. Almost everyone doesn't have enough money and enough time to pull something off, except we really do. When something becomes an absolute passionate drive for you, something that pulls on your heart so much, then you've got a certain degree of capacity that almost no one else has. And so tonight the discussion is about how we tend to move with our dominant thinking. As I've watched, we have a 7-step master's program to go from an amateur up through a master of something, and then spend the rest of your life learning how to share that something. And in that process of watching people struggle with this, because we all have lives, we all have busy lives and lifestyles, but getting things done for each of us is on quite a different basis, quite a different plane. And I watch some who can just move heaven and earth and make things work, and then the rest of us as normal people just really have some issues. Got this to worry about and that to worry about, and it just gets harder and harder as we spent in the green room today talking about how complicated life gets as you age. But if your life is stuck in your as-is world and you're trying to find a way to better from here over to here, how in the world can you possibly make that work? Most of you are aware of the right brain, left brain kind of concepts, and all of us who are left brain oriented tend to struggle immensely with this left brain, right brain stuff, because the left brain person is such a wide range of interest. We like to do this and this and this and this and this and this. And I was getting ready to throw a box of stuff out. I've got a whole garage full of things. When Chris and Joe and I moved, I threw everything in Soulworthy in some boxes, and I threw all of Chris and Joe's life in some boxes, and I threw all my parents' stuff, 50 years of stuff, in boxes, and threw it in our garage here. And I need to go through it all, but God, I don't want to. There's so much of stuff there, the decisions of what to throw away, what to give away, what to keep, and I got lots of other things I'd rather do, so I just avoid. Most of you know me pretty well. Lou's really good at creative avoidance. I have a PhD in that. And I grabbed a box a couple of days ago, and I'm just going to take it and throw it in the damn trash. I thought, if I look in this sucker, I'm going to cuss myself, but I'm not. I'm just going to go throw it away. And I got right to the rim of the garbage can, and I noticed the drawing. And I've misplaced it. In fact, let me grab it quick. Well, yeah, well, it's right here. I forgot to bring it in. A lot of you can remember when I started learning to draw and sketch, and I've been at it for quite a few years now, but I did this is a Da Vinci. I don't know if you can see it from the glare very well. This is Da Vinci sketch, and it's kind of a famous old sketch, and I was in a hotel.
Tip the top forward.
What? Will that do it?
Top of it forward. Just a bit more.
There, you can kind of see it there pretty good.
Yeah.
He didn't rough out the sketch. This is Madonna, and she's pregnant, and that's what I wanted to do, is to drape the clothes. And this damn sketch, this moment, I was in a hotel down in Phoenix. I was downtown Phoenix, an elegant hotel. And I was there alone. I was going to the Cowboy Art Show, the Western Art Show. And I took that, I ran across a book. I bought it at an antique bookstore, the Da Vinci sketch. I thought, I'm going to take a shot at that. And it was the first time I'd done rolled cloth and fabric and tried to shape it and stuff. And it's not great, but it's not bad. And what it was good enough that it really lifted my spirits. I never forget that moment. That was just one of those times when you're just wrestling with things, especially a new skill or a new task, and all of a sudden it just kind of came together, and I went, oh, God. And so I found that dang picture. I thought, God, I can't throw this box of stuff away. I don't know what's here, but I can't throw it away. There's got to be some things that I can play with. And so I went and got a mat and mounted it yesterday, and I'm going to give it now to one of my kids. And when I see that kind of stuff and realize there are those moments, and every one of you have had those moments in your lifetime where something really significant happened. You've been thinking this way, and then all of a sudden your thinking is, I don't know if it's ricocheted, I don't know if it's just opportunity intersection. Somehow up to this point we thought this way, and then all of a sudden we begin to think otherwise. You all know, because you've taught and worked with other people who have never known art. They don't know anything about art or artistic efforts. And you've bumped into them, and a lot of them will say, oh, God, I wish I could do what you do. And we all know, because we've made the investment, what it takes to get from that, I don't think I can do anything, to a point where we can do something, and we get fairly, at least to a point where we're comfortable with it. We enjoy doing what we do. And Keith and I, for years, we've taught so many students over the years, and invariably they come into our courses thinking they can't do it, and we mostly get them to a point where they begin to realize they can do it. And to me, that's just thinking. It's right here. That which we think we can do, we can, and that which we think we can't do, we can't, and yet there's not a human being that doesn't wrestle with this. We 1 minute we're fine, and then the next minute we're not so fine, and we go, God damn it, that's how my life always goes. And so as I cover tonight's show, what I want to try and have you do is think of your own circumstance and try and see if there's anything here you can do with dominating your thinking. Because I'm so convinced, like James Allen got to, that most of us, if we could control our thinking, we can accomplish just about anything. Okay, Mel, have you got it up? Page 1?
Yes, yeah, page 1 is there.
Okay, good enough. So, to control what is dominantly on our mind, I think is probably the thing that contributes to people's successful efforts more than anything else. If you go into it thinking it won't work, then you're right. If you go into thinking it might work, then you've got a shot. You go into it thinking that it will work, the odds are extremely high that it actually will. And when you've kind of got to a point where you can somewhat maintain and control those dominant thoughts, they will then affect the actions, and you end up with something that actually really works. I've preached this for years and years, coming off my dental training, of that which we chew on, you're likely to swallow, and that which you swallow, you do become. And that's true in every facet of every one of our lives. We really can't blame anybody else for our individual circumstance, because it is our pattern of thinking, our habit pattern of thinking. I go at things, problem solving, in a certain way. I'm beginning to notice that my sons go at problem solving in slightly different ways, and each of them, which startles me, they're each different at tackling their problems, how they go at things. And it's so fascinating to watch that happen. When they came out of the same RNA and DNA pool, at least as far as I know, they're all, how they come up with their answers and how they try and solve problems and what they're worried about and what their interests are, gradually grow into a habit. The thing that made Steve Covey so famous was when he started saying, "Yay, gang, we all live by habit." And some people have better set of habits than other people have. So tonight I want you to think about your habits of how you go at things, how you try and do what you try and do and what you're after, and what ultimately this year should finish bringing now. We're kind of moving into the fourth quarter of the year. This is when the company does its best. Always this fourth quarter is just like most businesses. The fourth quarter is the most productive, and it's where the profit is actually made. And so if you say, well, between now and Christmas, have I got anything I really want to do? Is there anything significant on the list that would really change the future of 2016 if I could knock something down and make it actually work? And so when you start to say, well, does timing affect your habit pattern? It should. It really should. How many of you know, just tell yourselves, how many of you know when you're most productive in any given day? Out of the entire clock, where are you most productive? And I had occasion to talk about this yesterday with a friend of mine, and she likes getting up really early in the mornings and going at it, and she's developed that habit all her life. So for her, the morning is the most productive time. For me, it's in the evening on into the night, and I guess it boils back to dental school, because we just studied for 4 years. You'd hit it hard all day in school, and the only time you had was at night. And so we'd study on into the night all the time, and I just kind of got that habit. Then I hated going to work early, and I had control of that schedule, so we didn't fire it up till usually 9 o'clock. Summertimes I do early schedule, so I could get out of there and go water ski every day. But most of the time I try and crowd it later in the day. And now, when I've got control of my time, I'm an evening night person. So what are the odds that you could change that at this point in your life? What if it came up that there was something that could be really wonderful in your life, but you had to shift your entire circadian clock? You think you could do that? I don't know anybody. Maybe there's somebody out there that could, but I don't. At this point, we mostly have to, each of us, work with how things as they are. But if you can somewhat just grasp the fact that it's a lot in the feeling that if I got something more I really want to do, something more I really want to accomplish, then there's a reason to really zero in and control your dominant thinking now. And if that's the case, that's the only reason I can think of to sit into the show tonight, but I'm hoping we can get to some things that'll really give you some stuff to think about and consider. This was posted yesterday, and it's the visual pattern. They've got computers now that watch how people watch. So you open up a computer page, this is what people see. So these corners, this one right here is the beginning of the introduction. This is the baby. Look at what we look at. We hit the beginning of this, and we hit a little there, and we hit this over here. This is the postage and the time. And I think this is the most fascinating stuff to realize, that if we don't understand how this works and why, what goes on with the visualization of everything we interact with, my gosh, we're not doing well. But look at this down here. Look at everybody tend to scan the detail down here in the little tiny, and I always thought nobody ever looked at that, ever. But if you can see things like this, remember when we talk about the focal point of any presentation, there's one thing that everyone tend to zero in on. And when you can kind of sense where that's going and what's happening, you suddenly start to realize that most people can be influenced by what you're presenting. You don't just put something out and then a shot in the dark. You come back to it and try and see, is there something else going on? Now, I saw this also today or yesterday on the stream. This is the genetic makeup of that, of serotonin. This is dopamine, and this is acetylcholine. So this was for learning, dreaming, and memory. This is for love and passion, and this is for happiness and satisfaction. Now, when I see something like this, this is the most unusual, unique, first time I have ever seen anything like this. It is one of the really cool ideas. But I'll grab that now, and that goes into my journal permanently. And this, as I bump into it again in my journal, again and again and again, it's going to begin to influence my overall thought pattern, my thought habit pattern of thinking. And I think if you will do it, if you put it in the journal and then bump into it on occasion, at one point that good idea will link and connect with another one. There's so much on the web, especially Google Plus, about creativity. And everyone has their own kind of perspective on it. If I said if it was a creative habit, you had a creative thinking habit, every one of us would have our own way of going at that. And it's either been really productive for you or it has not been. And to affect that, to change and shift your thinking, come up with an alternative dominant habit pattern of thinking, boy, that takes some tremendous personal doing. There's just almost, most people cannot do it. I'm going to present several people tonight that have done really well in our network, and one of them is Brian. Brian Beatty started with me 8 or 9 years ago, and I remember his beginnings. Oh my Lord, did he struggle in the beginnings. And it's not so much with hands, it's just what should I do, and kind of going in the direction of his personal preferences. But in the period of time since that time, there's almost nothing he can't do. And Brian did a commission for the White House, the American Egg Board asked him to do a carving. It was presented to President Obama at the White House Easter decorating that year, and a couple of years ago. And this was the logo for it, and then he did the carving. And I've watched Brian kind of unleash his talent and uncage his thinking and develop these habit patterns to the point that he is not intimidated anymore by anything. He literally can take on, if it shows up as opportunity, he's not going to go hide and run or duck. He will hit it straight on, I guarantee it. He's won the Best of Utah State awards for sculpture and humanitarian services, I think 6 or 7 years in a row. And from his very, very humble beginnings and his first carvings and the first directions he was trying to take his career, to the point where he he just dominates many of the things that he goes to play with. Now he's moved into jewelry, aggressively so. And it's just delightful to watch someone who now very, very comfortable with his general habit pattern of thinking. Only 2 American artists have shown in this state at the National Bulgarian Museum, and Brian is one of them, and he's had 2 of those European shows. Another is Craig Hone, and I brag about Craig continuously. He's the son of Keith Hone, who was our first master. And Craig just lives, he has a life that is his lifestyle. They're not 2 different things. And you make a living one way, and then you try to have a life another way. And often that's all some people can do, but oh, that's not the best way to grow old. If there's any way in the world you can get to be doing what you prefer to be doing and pay the bills that way, it's so much better off. I've seen it time and time and time again. This is my granddaughter Sadie, and it's my son Ryan and his cute little family. And Sadie, when I was doing So Worthy, she comes out to see me and spend some time, and started teaching her how to carve eggshells, and she's already drawing and learning to do that, all that stuff. But she's in an age range where she really has a good chance of actually pulling something off and doing something with her talent and with her ability. But invariably, you have to use your creativity. And to me, creativity is alternative thinking. It's not your habit pattern, especially your bad habit pattern. It's a way of seeing something like this and realizing that I'd never seen this done this way before. But what a terrific, creative, fun way to include the lettering in the graphic pattern itself. But, like everything else that I throw at you, if you don't put this in your personal journal and hang on to it and bump into it on occasion, you're going to forget. And when I saw this pattern and looked at me, you, and us, this is what I hope the I&E network will be dominant and strong enough that the time I pass away, it will keep going. That's my whole effort now. Having wrestled with this idea now for 40 years, it just cannot die. It has to have a position in place in the overall world economy to help people discover they have some talent, develop that talent, master something, and then invest the rest of your life in sharing it. And as soon as you can start to realize that these ideas just trigger and modify your own thinking. It's not exactly what's here, it's the representation of what's here. It's what I'm after. So what it does is stimulate your thinking in a whole other direction. When I found this graphic, I sit and looked at it for at least 10 minutes. I could not believe what I was looking at. I have never seen a hummingbird replicated this way. And it's not something that I probably would do myself, except I was so intrigued that this came from somebody else's thinking. They had pushed a photograph of a hummingbird this far. And I thought, well, I could come in and do engraving spirals, couldn't I? Couldn't I put in our regular gun lace and just shove this all over the place? And those kinds of concepts are what I thrive on. It's the part that I think in my life I love absolutely the most. If you can't see this all over an eggshell, then we really need to have a longer visit. This just needs badly to be carved. And it's just a tatting pattern. Love to know who first made this, who first designed that tatting pattern. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? So if you don't have a journal, it's a working journal. This is not just something like a box in your drawer that you throw pictures in, or a desk in your drawer in your desk. Oh, just can't get those words out. And throw stuff in that you never ever mix with again. That's not going to help you. What is going to help you is something flexible that you can thumb back through. You all know I'm crazy about my Note 5 phone. That soup thing is just amazing how much you can do with it. And I've got a whole year's worth of, well, 2 years worth of pictures now of what I've played with off the stream and on the stream that I pulled into the phone, the stuff that I really like. So it's kind of an automatic catch-all of my journal of things that I really care about. And when you play with those things you care about, they will enhance. It just should get better and better and better. Your love for it grows, your passion for it grows. The energy comes from that. And almost anything else that is mundane and repetitive and ridiculous you'll avoid. But things that light your fire inside, you'll do more with. And it doesn't take long to enhance that position to where then you start mixing with people that are of the same inclination, like-minded circles of highly creative people. You see something that just says, God, I like this person. I don't even know who did this one in the circle. Oh, did you see Nariti Saffron's daughter stuff on Google Plus? I think Rod put it up or Mike put it up. It was just so cool. That young lady's just got such a great eye. And the whole family is extremely artistic. And I think, well, how cool is it we crossed paths all those years ago. And now there's a whole new generation coming up that's going to do even more. But when I see something like this, then I think, well, I'm not going to copy that anymore. What I am going to do is push that concept even further. The secret of all change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. And I like this. I like this. All my life, I get to a certain point where I can't handle the old, and I just start framing up the new. I have done it many times, and I'm just going to keep right on doing it till I'm gone. It's a better way to live life than to just be trapped constantly in circumstances you don't care for. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on the old, but building the new. And that then lights the fire inside. That's the passion that shows up, and that's the problem-solving tool of mankind, and it's the part that will dominate your thinking from then on. There's a process here, a step-by-step process, and all it really requires is this general choice. If I had a choice, I would go that way. And most of us, I think, really do have the choices. So in the process of finding how best you're going to roll, every one of us are already on their pathway. Life's a journey, and we're at this point in our lives, and we're already on the pathway we generally most quite like. And so finishing it well, putting the icing on the cake, moving into the last chapter and making it a good one, to me are big issues. I can't see you just, well, maybe puttering is a part of it. I don't mind puttering if it's being creative, if I got something fun to play with. But it's not wasting the time. Go to bed at night knowing that I've been there, done that. This is something that has just freaked me out my whole life. The thought of being right here and that tail right there, it just unnerves me. Just absolutely, oh, the height of a moment of incredible energy is right here, right here. And yet you would, to be right here, you would have to put yourself in this position, would you not? I don't care. You're never going to get this sensation unless you're on the water. And that requires you doing something, maybe doing it different than you ever have before. I've preached about these guys a time or two before, but I wanted to bring it up again because it is such unique thinking. What they've done is start a company around the idea that you can create a memory and give an experience to someone rather than an ordinary too big gift, okay? So they have on their website this tips for giving, and then you can read their blog about things that they've actually done, and it's grown to be a good-sized little company. And what people will do is give someone else an experience, okay? And unique, memorable gifts, experiences as gifts. So it's our belief that giving a gift should be more meaningful than just fulfilling an obligation. It should be about showing your recipient that you took the time to find something that they would truly love and remember for years. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about who we are. This is their ad. What did you get that you want to trade those gifts in for an experience? And I thought, oh, it's one of the more clever ads that I've ever bumped into. It caught my attention absolute first time I bumped into it. But here's a concept that is so unusual. I mean, we've been gift giving for as long as humans have been giving gifts, forever, except not always do we realize what it could mean in the impact of someone else's life. And I've thought about the thank you business a lot because the thank you business is where I navigate between well-off people and their thank yous. And there's a similar kind of concept here that could also be played with the interaction of the gift giving of things that really have a memory attached. I've also played continuously with the idea of the handmade crusade. There's just no question what's about to happen. Artificial intelligence and robotics are going to roll over the human race so hard. I don't think most of us are really prepared for that. I walked out of the company today and we have 17 machines full-time banging out parts, more than 50,000 a day now, 60,000 a day, and they're automatic. We turn them on, plug them in, and those machines bang those parts out like the train load with not a soul touching them. And you'd sit and go, if you can't see what's going to happen to human labor, is going to be the first place that robotics and artificial intelligence roll over. And so what happens to handmade stuff then? I talked last week about the findings of the university where they're beginning to realize that a paper text is a deeper learning curve than just reading something scanning it on a tablet or a Kindle. And it startled the university. They did a test in a business school, 460 students, and it was such a dramatic difference, like 92% better for the kids when they did both. When they went at it with a cursory overview, but then studied harder with the paper copy and went into it. And I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of things that are done handmade that are that same way. Every one of us who stayed with this for any length of time know how satisfying and how enjoyable it is to make something with your own head, heart, and hands. There is just nothing like it. And it is so self-serving. It's so beneficial from a therapeutic perspective to learn to be able to do this kind of stuff. And to begin with, we didn't realize what we're doing, but boy, we're sure into it a million miles since. Met Chester at the National Sculpture Show in Denver, and Chester was there with us. She's the National Chainsaw Artist, which is not the best title in the world, but oh Lord, has he done well with his career. And he's just delightful to meet as a person. And Chester started carving. His first thing was he worked in a youth camp up on the mountain, and they gave him a chainsaw and told him to go out and cut the parking lot poles down. They weren't going to dig them out. They're just going to whack them off at the ground level and then redo a bigger parking lot. And so Chester went out and he whacked one, but then the next one he started playing with a little bit. And he says, I just fell in love with the chainsaw. And his hobby just literally took over his life, and he started producing all kinds of different sculpted pieces, not realizing that he had this kind of ability to begin with. And yet, as you see the stuff and the style and the quality, you can tell his work a mile away every time you see it. In almost every major art city we've been in, Aspen, Jackson Hole, Park City, Sun Valley, Sundance, his stuff is everywhere, at least in one gallery per place. And his price ranges are steep. His stuff is expensive, but oh Lord, does he do beautiful, beautiful stuff. Now, if you go down through Chester's career and realize that his entire studio had a beautiful barn. He lives in Bend, Oregon, and his barn studio caught on fire and burned clear of the ground, just destroyed all of his tools and all of his setup, and he had to completely start over. Except that doesn't stop you. There isn't anything that could stop him. And you've got to know that how Chester got here was his dominant thinking. If you're not taking your dominant thoughts in the direction that you want to most to go, you're going to be dissipated every time. And the right brain person, we get sucked into everything else. It's like we don't like to focus our energy and our efforts on building anything new. We really like sticking with everything old. And every time we bump into Chester stuff, it just lights my fire again, because that's the way I want to live. That's how I want to do my life as well. And he's just one of the most productive people I have ever seen in my life. He can bang something out, just stay with it, stay with it. And he does large scale, mostly large, not always this large, but very significant sized sculpted pieces. And this one we bought, we had 14 horses on ours. And we had 14 masters at the time. And this is one of his favorite pieces, is these charging, stampeding horses. Loves walnut. If you find a walnut-based tree, please send me an email. Let me know. He just loves the bases of walnut trees, because that's where he can get his best look. So, from amateur to the master of something, not just grow old, but to do well with this next period of your life, you better stick very, very close with those precious threads of interest. The things that you most like are the things that will bring this passionate energy into your life that will help you to focus on your thinking. Don't let it dissipate. Don't let it keep rolling out in every damn direction under the sun. Yes, open the doors of your own individual creativity, but be looking for building new, taking those thoughts and turning them into things that are better. Whenever you spot something new, I love this piece because it just popped me so hard when I first saw it. And what I liked about it was what I know with airbrushing is, look at that reflection right there. Without that little soft reflection right there, this wouldn't look round. And it wouldn't look as glassine as it does. Now, it could have been done even better if it had been a triangle shaped like a round square, or a square piece like the Windows image. On that, it would have looked even sharper, even glassier. They left it a little bit soft. But I thought, isn't that the coolest thing? That this is all this really unusual graphic shaping. Those are flat lines, but they don't look flat in the least. And then that right there, that just changed the flavor of the whole thing. And the more you realize those kind of little subtle details are what it's what makes everything explode, I think. Okay? And when we learn to do what we're doing together, we spend our time marketing and influencing each other, and you start to see how someone else has done it, and then that influences you. Why post things up? Why do we do what we're doing of spreading our influence now? I'm just startled at how far Google Plus can reach. How many people you can impact, and you don't get to choose who might be influenced by what you're doing. And so I think, well, what we're doing is not going to hurt anybody, but what we're doing might really light the fire in somebody to begin to realize it's not later, it's now that we need to be going after our own individual talents. And the only way we get that is to find anyone who's willing to try new things. Cole is a plumber. Lived his life, made his living with plumbing. That's Ed on the phone. Sorry, Ed, I'm in the middle of the show. Isn't that funny how our phones are all connected to? Cole is a plumber, and his whole life doing that, and bumped into us and just went crazy with stock and gun stock carving. And at first didn't think that he could do it. I remember him in class distinctly. Spent a week with me, and we got him rolling. He's pushed it and pushed it. He loves doing it just about as much as breathing. And it's so different than his plumbing career. And he's made plenty of money, but God, it's not a life we're after, a living we're after, it's a life we're after. And for him to be in the same position, we all recognize this. And he comes to a show and sets up his stuff and starts carving and playing away, and he's just grabbed onto everything that we have done and are doing, and he's made it his own. He tried this with the same way I used to pay for my shows. I would carve a gun stock, and then I would sell dollar raffle tickets on it during the show, and then auction it off at the last day of the show. And it would pay for my airfare and my hotel and my booth space. And I did it several times, and so Cole gave it a try, and this young man had just won the gun, and he was going to give it to his dad. Pretty cool. And Deb's the same way. Deb bumped into us, used to live out by where I did my practice out in eastern Utah, and started doing her carving. Has just opened up a world of possibilities for Deb. And she's now moved completely into sculpture. She has always had a tremendous interest in art, just not a hell of a lot of opportunity to actually go do something with it. But the second we start realizing there's something there, this was a class she took with Jeff Wolf, and Jeff's the leading top 3 Western art sculptors in the nation as a part of our circle. And you sit down with Jeff for a day or two, and you start learning how he sculpts, because he's extremely good at it. You generally will light a fire that will then pull you in the direction the rest of your life. And that, to me, is what we mostly play with, is how in the world can I begin to go from some kind of pattern to some kind of a shaping and composition, and then on to the reality that is what we want to play with. I am a crazy nut with this new camera to be able to capture concepts and ideas. Because this kind of image here and that kind of logo is what captures out west a ton of people's interest. And I don't want to lose that. I want to be able to have that trigger my own thinking and pull me in a direction that I want to go. Can you see how I've styled the inspiration and encouragement logo? in a similar fashion. You see where that came from? And I saw this pattern. This is on the side of a trailer. Look at that. Isn't that not just cool? And that was the image. That was the first engraving I did on my buddy's truck window. Back window of his pickup, I engraved those Fighting Bull Elk. And it just changed everything for me because Craig, we got it all done. His brand new truck. And he says, Louis, he says, now I'm your good old buddy and friend, and you didn't charge me to do this today. But he says, if you hadn't charged me, what would you charge? And I didn't have a clue. So based on the fact that it was a very expensive new truck, I just said, yeah, probably about $300. And he didn't even blink. Didn't even slow him down. And the very next person came to me and says, I want that same pattern on my truck window. And Craig told me it'd be about $300. Didn't even, when it's something people want, the selling marketing mechanism changes. And so I keep all this stuff in my life. It's the things that I feed on. It's the things that feeds my soul and my heart now. This, you remember, this was Joe Cummings' first major carving of like this in walnut. And then he got this done, sold this for a fireplace mantle for $10,000. And it's a very deep relief of the Wells Fargo logo. It's a Stagecoach, actually. And then he had it cast in bronze before he delivered the walnut. And he sold 4 of those for $5,000 each. So something that started out ended up a $30,000 project. And this is the day he got the first bronze back. We sure had a lot of fun bumping into that. I think when you can see that there's something you can do and then we mix with each other, all of a sudden now that opens the door for someone else. And I still believe that's why we're doing it. The greatest satisfaction in my life is to see people that can make things work, even against the odds. They struggle and struggle with one thing, but they do not allow that to interfere with their dominant thinking. And if you can just basically pull your life into your position of walking, trying harder, don't walk away. There's no reason to be alive if you're not going to do something remarkable. Think higher, aim higher, look for more possibilities and opportunity, and stay with that in the next period of your life. Then it'll be worthwhile, no matter what. You cannot be blown out of the water. Once it's you that gets to decide every day what you're going to do with the hours of your day, then you're in the position, I think, the number one position. Control of your time is what you're most after. So, stick with it. Interact with us as much as you possibly can. Find something you can develop as a grand dream, and then never, never, never let it go. Do not back off from amateur to apprentice to technician to artisan to professional to trainer and coach and to mastery of something. Right here is where tremendous satisfaction comes from your living. And the only person that can help you up that mountain of success is you. There just is no other way. So, thank you much for taking time tonight. Let's shut her down now and see if anybody's got any comments, and we'll call it a night. Hi, Deb Corman. I didn't see you come in. You snuck in here, babe. How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Good.
Had a good week?
Got a new order for a new milk can.
Okay.
Question. Who in the INE network engraves or carves on stone? Like a little piece of stone, like welcome, or a house name or number?
Me? What are you trying to do? Just you want to carve, use a diamond and cut a stone?
I have a customer I just painted a milk can for, and she's looking for somebody to make, I guess, a house sign out of a piece of smooth stone.
Yeah.
And I said I could do it, but I'm way too busy. I don't. I figured there was somebody that I could get her to that she could order one or something.
Well, generally they won't pay enough for something like that, and then you got to ship it, no matter where you are, and the weight of it is too much to even ship. Costs more to ship it than it does to make it usually.
Right.
So unless we found somebody close, I'm not sure we could even take advantage of that.
Okay. Well, then I would do it. What burrs do you use? Carbide?
I would use a diamond, and I'd cut it. I just do the outline of the lettering. Don't do the whole lettering, just cut the outline of the lettering, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Stay on the outside and cut a trough of an I or the trough of the W. And then if you can seal the stone first, some degree, put a layer or two of acrylic on it, and then put the pattern on, and then cut it, and then put rub and buff or black enamel in the cuts.
Gotcha. I got it. Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Then that's about the fastest, easiest way that I can think. I don't know if anybody else, Mel, you got an idea of any other way she might go at it other than blasting? If you could blast it, that's by far the easiest, but you can't do it and ship a rock. It just doesn't work. There's not enough perceived value in
The post office says if it fits, it ships.
Well, that might be. If it's a fit, it would fit one of those boxes. Maybe you could get away with it.
If it's in one of those boxes, they'll ship it.
Okay,
I'll think about it. I'll talk to Tam and see if there's anybody she can think of that may.
I think Jay does something like that.
I think you're right, Mike. I think maybe you're right. Jay might be somebody that could bang that out.
Okay.
Let's keep that in mind. Let's send him an email or a post, a Google post, and see. Okay. He's doing a show. Isn't he up to his ears and doing a show right now? I think that's what he's got. One more this fall. Yeah, Ed.
Yeah, I was going to say if she takes it to a UPS store, if they don't have a box to fit the stone, they will actually build a box around the stone. So that's another idea, because UPS has all different sizes and shapes of boxes, but they also will custom make a box to fit.
Yeah, but UPS is expensive to ship on something like that, Ed.
Yeah. This is a house. This is just a house stone. I've done headstones. That's where I've done really well, is doing a headstone for somebody. If they want a headstone monument, my sister's headstone was $3,000 or something. So a headstone that's going to end up being perception value is really high, then you can get away with doing something for $600, $800, or $1,000 or $1,200.
No, I think she's only looking for
it, but this is not what she's after.
No, she's after something small, like a notebook, like a pad.
Yeah. Or they can just put it on the porch or something. See, I used to do a lot of stones. We have river rock out here. Everywhere there's river rock. And they're smooth, and they're pretty similar in the density of the stone. So I'm really familiar with it. And I would do Boy Scout stuff. I'd put all kinds of Scout things on and give them to people to put them on their porch, just that very thing. And I've done a lot of those. But I gave them away. But that's because I can do them so quick, and then I'm here, and I'm all set up. And the blaster's no problem to do that with. But every time I've gotten into that middle in between range of a porch stone at a distance, the shipping has been just prohibitive. But Mel's right. I work with USPS.
If you go to buy river rock, especially down here in Florida, it's expensive.
Is it bad?
Yeah.
Well, maybe what we need to do, Ron, is I'll load up a big tractor trailer rig and I'll come your way. That's like when you hear the people that sell tumbleweeds. You guys heard that story? There's a family in Wyoming, honest to God, they make $1 billion a year selling tumbleweeds as decorative stuff. everywhere else. They just never have seen big
So
tumbleweed.
you can make tumbleweed snowmen.
They spray paint them and throw glitter on them and throw them in the truck and write out a great big invoice. And I said, oh, good Lord, there's just no end to what people will pay really good money for. And it's just what you can't get in your area. See, we pay a lot for seashells, Ron, out here. You guys in the Gulf states have got more seashells than you know what the hell to do with.
Yeah, Ron can pick them up in his backyard.
Yep. Got them all over the place.
I remember.
Well, go ahead, Joni.
I remember many years ago. I don't know how. Maybe it was when I first got in touch with you or something. It was in the 80s, I think. And I was going down the river, walking in the river, this little creek, and I was picking up stones, flat stones, and I would try to carve on them, you know. And I thought, it was pretty good, it was fun, but it didn't hold my interest that much. But I do remember that, going them down on the creek and looking at all the stones and things on the bottom, and then picking them up and taking them home and then start playing with them. And I have no idea what I did with them now. Too many years ago.
Well, rock canning is a big deal. There's something about cutting them and polishing them and seeing what's inside and all that stuff. It's a huge, huge hobby. I've never gotten very far into it, but it's sure fascinating. Mm-hmm. And the stuff that I like is things that aim over from semi-precious stones and gemstones that go into jewelry and jewelry production. That to me is, I think if I had started my life over, I'd have ended up in the jewelry world, because that's just terribly, terribly fascinating to me. Any other comments? Anybody got anything that want to throw into this mixture tonight of how to stay on track? It's, to me, is such an important subject. It's so hard when you're all over the place. You can't really be, at least financially productive.
You got to try to put blinders on.
You do. You just can't. It just unravels most of us right-brain people consistently. Especially
the shiny is always sparkly.
It is just exactly what it is. There's just no way around that. Well, gang, good to visit with you again. Appreciate you coming. If I can help you with anything, send me an email and we'll keep in touch. And we'll see you again next Wednesday night, okay?
Okay.
Have a good week, everybody.
Everybody's posting more and more. Just keep doing it. Every day, find something to put up. At least one thing that you post or repost. Take someone's and reshare it. Throw it into your own private stream, okay?
Good night, guys.
Good night, everybody. See you next Wednesday.
Bye, everybody.
I wanted to say one thing. I tried posting, and I get messed up so bad that everybody got it was a private post or trying to learn how to do it. And thanks to my friend over there that's on the screen now, he told me how to do it, and I did it, and it went, but it went to everybody and not just to one person. So that kind of discouraged me. I have to figure out what I did wrong, Michael. Are you still on?
I am on.
Okay.
How are you, Joni?
Well, health-wise, not good at all. And but if I can ever get over all this business, don't get old. It's hell getting old. Excuse my language. But anyway, I still need to get that formula down again, and maybe I can have you do it again with me, and I could figure out how I made that mistake.
Well, I don't know how you did, but I'm not on your computer, so I can't help you.
No,
but
but
I can't look over your shoulder.
I know. What I meant is one step. Do this first, and then do that next, and so forth. 1, 2, 3, 4. type of thing. But other than that, if I could just get my health back, I'm losing my health. I really am losing it, mentally and physically.
Way cool. Do you want to see probably the best clock I've ever done?
Yes, I'd love to see it. I can't hear you if you're talking to me. Your sound is not coming this way.
I was off the computer for a second to get the clock, Joni.
Okay, because I can hear somebody in the background.
Please understand this. This is probably the most favorite clock I've ever done.
Uh-huh.
But is it my best carved clock? No.
Uh-huh.
No. The reason this clock is the best clock I've ever done is because of the color.
Oh, okay.
And if you don't understand the colors,
Mm-hmm.
I can't help you.
Yeah.
You ready to look?
Yes, definitely. Oh, pick it up, down. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Beautiful. Very nice. Very good. Oh, yeah. That is good. Beautiful. What is that done on? What kind of material did you carve that on?
It's maple.
Maple. It looks beautiful.
And that is real gold leaf.
Oh, really?
It is real gold leaf. Not imitation, it's real.
Yeah. Wow.
And I don't know. Do you understand the colors?
Yes, I do. I think I do. Yeah.
What do the colors mean to you?
Well, as a personal type of thing, the blue, I love, that's my favorite color. And to me that, and the centerpiece, that is where, I'm telling you what I think it is. And that's not important, I guess. But I think it's beautiful.
Red, white, and blue. What does that mean?
That's the American flag as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, it is. I am going to enter, this is 1/50th of what I'm doing.
Wow.
1/50th.